So I'm here with Huggy, who was my original DJ partner at Back to Basics. It was Ralph, Lawson and Huggy. We play at Basics on the Saturday, then quite often travel around the country and around Europe by the end as Ralph, Lawson and Huggy, but we were also a production duo as Wolf and Bear, Ralph, Wolf, Lawson and Paul.
Huggy Bear.
And Paul Huggy Huggett. Yeah, Huggy Bear, you know, if Gen Z be like, whew, Paul Huggy Bear was also like the coolest person on TV in the 1970s in Starsky and Hutch.
That's right.
But yeah, so we were Wolf and Bear, and we were alongside Carl Finlow. We worked out of a studio in Rothwell, which is just south of Leeds, in the farmhouse in a place called the Rhubarb Triangle, which is a true story, but for another time. So yeah, lovely to have you back. Basically, Huggy now lives in Orlando, in America. He's been there for quite some time. So but I want to kind of like maybe cast the old fishing rod back in time and just fish out some stories from your memories. So yeah, what was your kind of memory of like the farm and you know how we were making music? I think first and foremost as Wolf and Bear.
Sure. Well, the first time I met you, mate, it was your Bubble Good bag.
Oh yeah.
It's a night before Back to Basics, the Bubble Good, and you had some bags made, and I know
just one. Just one. It was handmade. It was hand painted by my friend Ziggy, who I did the night with.
And you know, we got on like a house on fire because we love like proper house music, and it just started from there. And I remember the first time you took me to meet Carl Finlow, and he was at a flat in Leeds somewhere. He must have been a student, and we walked into his flat, and it's a shit tip everywhere. But he'd got some
Not in his room, he's so tidy.
Yeah, Carl's room was really tidy.
Yeah, the rest of the flat. Yeah, it's probably me, flatmates.
But he had some old software on there, and he was tinkering about then, and that's really when I kind of first started hanging around with you guys. And after that, it was at the farmhouse, and the infamous story where we were doing a remix for Josh Wink, and we let the live pass go, and it landed on 20 minutes and 20 seconds. Thus, 2020 Vision was born.
Yeah, and you said you went 2020 Vision, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I went,
yeah.
That's a great name for a track.
Yeah.
Only thing I'm going to correct you on though, it was African Dream.
Yeah.
It was African Dream.
Was it African Dream?
African Dream. We were doing a remix for African Dream, all in the same family.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Wonster.
Because I found it. I found the dub, mate. I found it. And we'd already done, what we do in those days is we do the vocal mix for them, and then we do a dub, and then we'd have fun. We'd have fun ourselves. So we did these big long dubs, which were live passes, and they'd be like normally kind of Carl on some keys and the desk. I'd quite often be on a drum machine. I seem to remember you loving the Roland SH-101.
Yeah,
you quite often did bass lines and acid lines, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'd perform live, kind of like a band, and we were doing this big long pass. And like we stopped the DAT on this dub of African Dream at exactly 20 minutes, 20 seconds. And you shout out, oh, 2020 Vision, mate. And the light bulb went off for me. I was like, wait a minute, that's a great name for the label.
Yeah. That's how it started,
and that's how it started, yeah. That's true. And that was in the farmhouse. Just wanted to go back to that Bubble Good bag. So Bubble Good was a night I did while I was still at Leeds University on a Wednesday night with, as I said, my friend Zippy actually, and Giuseppe, and
it was a music factory,
and Tinny. No, it was just at a place called Digby's.
Digby's.
Yeah, and he'd done that bag for me. He was doing art. He was doing fine art, and he'd hand painted it. You know, and we actually got robbed. Me and my girlfriend actually got robbed, and they nicked that bag to put the stuff in.
That's right, I remember.
And then a bit of time later, it turns up in Eastern Bloc Records, where you used to work.
That's right.
And Richard Bithell went, "Oh, someone was in with one of those Bubble Good bags." I was like, "Mate, there's only one. That's like we could have found out who robbed us." Right. And it was in there. So anyway, that's the story of the Bubble Good bag. But I think that is a nice little segue to talking about Eastern Bloc Records, where in Manchester, where you work behind the counter. And to this day, I have to say, I have never seen any record shop worker better than you at selling records.
It was the enthusiasm.
Back in it was the enthusiasm. I'm not going to insult your accent, but give us a check bass on this one.
Check bass line on this one.
But there'd be like a counter, and you'd be like, you know, you'd be like you were DJing.
Yeah.
You'd be putting the tunes on, wouldn't
yeah.
you? And you'd be like, right, whoa.
The fortunate thing is that all these latest imports and white labels that come to us first, and they get played at Basics before anyone else had them. And that was the beauty of that we had this connection with me being in Eastern Bloc. And I used to feed up best tunes to my
did.
mates.
To me, mate, thank you.
To you.
Yeah, and to Ali, and you know, everyone else that came over. Yeah, you really did, mate. Yeah, but
it was a good Manchester connection.
It was good. That's what I want to say. It was a good Manchester connection. It wasn't just the Leeds DJs. You were also hooked up with James Holroyd, who was a Basics resident, but it was in Manchester. And there was, like, you know, obviously Luke Hooner and all those guys coming in, but all the Hacienda crew were coming in at that time. Yeah, all that lot. But and also
Jam MCs.
Sasha.
Yeah.
Sasha, you would be coming into Eastern Bloc. But the thing I remember is, like, you know, there'd be a hot new record, and you'd have such enthusiasm, like, you'd chuck it on, like, chip bass line, this one. And I remember there'd be like maybe 10 DJs on a Saturday, all lined up. And I'd never see, you'd have back in those days, you'd have a box of maybe records, and everyone would just go, yeah, me, I want one. And you'd literally go,
yeah, it'd be like dealing them out.
You'd deal them out along the counter. And you'd do 10, you'd sell 10 like that, then another 10, another 10. And I didn't even know how many copies could you have sold of a hot record just in Eastern Bloc?
50 copies of Star Dancer on Red Planet, easy. Gone.
Yeah.
Chris Cuvass. I remember finding Chris Cuvass hip hop.
Oh,
they'd not been selling it, and obviously I loved that tune. Put it on and just sold it out. Bang. It was great. You just put it on and people.
Dun 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 dun. Yeah, you used to. Yeah, so yeah, you. So how come you weren't living in Manchester though? You were travelling.
No, I was
to Eastern Bloc to work.
Travelling to work there
every day.
My mate John Berry, who owns Eastern Bloc, I met him when I was DJing at Eureka, and I was kind of doing the Orbit.
Of course you were.
And then I got him a job DJing at the Orbit, and then he goes, "You want a job at Eastern Bloc?" Because the first time Dave put me on a Basics flyer, he billed me as the postie.
You are kidding me.
The fucking postie.
Because you were a postman.
Yeah, and he was embarrassed because I was a rave DJ at the Orbit, and he, you know, he wanted all his smart shirt and fancy fucking shoes lot. We don't want a raver DJ on.
He called
and
you
he
the
billed me as
postie.
the postie.
Oh,
we were Rocky and Diesel.
I don't remember that.
Yo, I do. That's funny as hell now when you think about it. And then he started putting me down as Huggy on the flyer, but I wish I still had it somewhere. I think it's got the baby's head on it, the old baby's head.
No, it's not that one. That's the original. That's the first one.
The postie, Rocky and Diesel.
Yeah, so there was a connection that you actually started out as a resident at Orbit, right? Which is an infamous
legendary
Mecca. Techno. So it was.
It wasn't then. It wasn't techno.
Really?
No, we were playing house and Italian piano anthems.
More rave then.
Yeah, it wasn't really my cup of tea.
It was more hardcore though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was more Belgian techno.
But then Orbit did become an extremely important techno.
Oh God, yeah, they were.
You know, they had Sven Bath, Richie Horton,
Jeff Mills,
Derek May, Jeff Mills. Well before.
Yeah, Weatherall played there. There's a lot of big DJs played there.
Yeah.
But
I think that's the interesting thing about Orbit is it wasn't in Leeds city centre. I mean, I think it was
in Morley.
It was in, but before Morley, I think it was in Ossett in Wakefield, and then Morley, which are on the outskirts of Leeds. So basically, we're talking about like this internationally renowned techno club in a small town.
Yeah.
Outside Leeds. With how many people were turning up?
Well, the first Orbit in Ossett, it was in, I can't remember the name of it, something house.
After Dark was Morley.
After Dark was Morley, but this something house, and it was like a castle.
Really?
And there must have been 1,000 people in there, and it was to the rafters. People who got their head on the door trying to get cool air because it was that hot.
Wow.
And it was mental, kind of like Quadrant Park vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And
Jane.
And you were resident there?
Resident there with John Berry and...
From Eastern Bloc?
From Eastern Bloc. And Nigel Walker, he was there. Nidge Walker, and Rob McGrail, we were the residents.
I remember him, yeah.
And then, sadly, after the horrible accident, Dave said, "Do you want to DJ at..." Because I was coming over from the Orbit and doing odd gigs upstairs in the funk room.
That's right.
And then he goes, do you want to take over the techno room for Ali? And that's how I became Basics resident.
So that's when you
So then I
came
said,
in.
sorry Albert, I'm leaving. Which,
Did you?
Yeah, they didn't like it. They did not like it.
I bet, mate.
But it was a natural progression for me, and I could play more stuff I wanted to play.
You were into house.
Our
house
house
music.
and tech house and all that. Before it was called tech house.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, really, that's an interesting point for me, though, because going back to the productions, because as Wolf and Bear, a record like Raptures of the Deep, I mean, I'm looking back on it now, and it is kind of like a prototype, early tech house record, but I don't think either of us would kind of recognise what they called tech house now from what was going on, kind of simultaneously in the north at the same time when you had like what's I guess more known for being called tech house, which was what we called a little bit, it was coming out of South London, Croydon, which was Terry Francis, Eddie Richards, Wiggle, that whole kind of sound was what they were also doing, I think, which is very much, because at the end of the day, all it is a fusion of house and techno, becomes tech house. But in a way, it's something that I'm not sure that it got so big, I'm not sure we recognise it from either of those. But I mean, if you look 1994 and you're looking at Raptures of the Deep, I'd say that is like, quite an early example of fusing techno and house.
I'll never forget when we got a review from Jerome Packman for Raptures, Facts. And we were like, because I had some Jerome Packman tracks, I loved them, and I was like, oh, I can't believe he loves Raptures. And
I remember that very well. Because we had a fax machine set up in the farm, and it would come, when a fax came through, it would like...
And we did Space Groover for the Drum Club album. It was the Drum Charlie Hall.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we did it. It came on the Drum Club album. If you look on Discogs, it's on there.
Right, really?
Yep.
Okay.
And it was the best track on that album.
Right. I remember doing something with Drum Club. I didn't remember it being Space Groover.
Yeah, it was Raptures, mate.
Yeah, okay. I remember, but we did Space Groover or Raptures?
It was not Raptures, it was Space Groover.
Raptures definitely came out first on it's number 3 on 2020 Vision, which we reissued this year, and it was amazing the response we got from it. With the Craig Richards on a mix on the awesome. Flip, and a dub I cut out of the original DAT, and the response we got to coming out again 30 years later was immense. Yeah.
I remember you getting that chant, the vocal chant from some...
David Attenborough.
Yeah, it was on a TV programme. Yeah. Somebody in South America, a tribe.
No, it's African. It's an African tribe.
African tribe, and it sounds so good on there.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing came together, but I think the main thing for me was we were just so in the zone. Yeah. And it was nearly like operating like a band. Yeah. That we wouldn't be talking during that. We'd all be on our machine, getting on with it. Yeah. And we'd all be like gelling, and you could, you're not looking at blocks on a computer arranging in Ableton.
You were just jamming live.
You were jamming live, and we had it all kind of like. Me and you were just DJs. Let's face it. Finlow set it all up. He was the kind of
Finlow was putting it together.
Genius that put it all together, wasn't he? He knew how to work the synths, but he also knew how to do the MIDI so that they were synced. The amount of hours.
We knew how to arrange to a certain degree.
We did afterwards, but we'd cut it up. But I think the amount of like painstaking hours we lost when things weren't working. It wouldn't work, would it? And they'd be like, this is
Cubase then.
We'd use Cubase, but what we could do is though, I remember like there being a little box, and I think sometimes it's maybe if we ran the MIDI from the 909 as a mastership, and you could you could do the patterns on there, and then you could basically stop it, and then everything would stop though. Right. So I remember we did a track called The Lair, and we were doing these tracks, and you could press stop and it would go, whoa, and you could wait, then do the cut off,
do a little bit of cut off,
and then bang it back in, boom, 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 and then off again.
I was a big fan of those cut offs. But love using the SH101. In fact, that was a big proponent on Hoth, which was Back to Basics #1 label.
Your record.
Yeah. And Leon Davis, who sadly passed away, he helped with that, and Fraser, good old Fraser Bridson. Yeah. We did it at Cogent Studios.
I remember it, yeah.
It took a long time, but it was like a 10-minute epic, and again, my love of Star Wars, I called it Hoth, the Hoth System EP.
Yeah. Well, we both love Star Wars. I think we connected, all of us. Yeah. We connected over being sci-fi geeks.
Yeah,
really.
we'd watch Star Trek on Wednesdays, and the Next Generation, we'd all be sat in the farm. Oh, new episode!
We were definitely sci-fi geeks, living in a farm, making you know, house music. But talking of the farm though, I've got, I don't know if you remember the story, you'll tell it better than me as well, is that I remember being in there and I think we were doing a remix for Felix de Housecat called The Light, and we'd finished it, and I remember it was a nice summer night, and in the summer it was beautiful out there. We could at the farm we had no neighbours, so we'd work all night, and I think it was coming up to kind of like nearly like dawn, and then we'd finish this mix and we were sat outside with the speakers blasting out into the front listening to this mix, and I think and then to set the scene all around the farm was rhubarb. But these rhubarb plants, it's called the rhubarb triangle. It's the best place in England, if not Europe, to grow rhbarb for the soil. It's true. And then, but these rhubarb plants would grow like massive, like triffids. You know what I mean? And I remember you were coming. You decided to come through the fields, through the triffids, go whoa, like a swamp monster. It scared the shit out of us.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, is that? I think
Day of the Triffids.
Day of the Triffids. I think we legged it into the house and slammed the doors shut. You were like, you fucking nanas, it's only me. Yeah.
Oh,
but these were good times, mate. You know, and so you became a resident of Back to Basics. Interesting I hadn't quite understood the chronology that you came after Ali Cook's passing in '93, March '93. Then, and then you were there for. You made the basement your own, really. It was Hoth's Lair, we used to call it, and you used to play long old sets down there, and you'd be in there sweating away, and I mean, what kind of guests would you have in the basement?
I've played with DJ'd some legendary guests. Of course, Weatherall stands out. I've been fortunate to DJ with him
numerous occasions.
More times than many.
Wow. And
he invited me to play at his Sabre Sonic Club, which I was shitting my pants, but it went really well. Darren Emerson first met, Doc Martin, Josh Wink.
And all the Detroit DJs.
All the Detroit people, Stacey Pullen and all that lot. And it was just so cool. It was so cool hearing them guys play. Yeah, really, really lucky to experience
I think that basement was perfect for techno, right? Yeah. I mean, we're talking about talk about a small underground bunker with a good sound. Yeah. Just a strobe, a red light, and sweaty people. That was it, wasn't it?
You could again, Eastern Bloc connection. I was playing stuff like Teste, The Wipe for the first time on +8.
Yeah.
Electrostatic by Plastic Man on the first time on White Labels. And bumping.
And you played New Beat and stuff like that as well, wouldn't you?
Played a lot of New Beat. And I'd mix house in, but it was a little more edgy. Down there.
But I think you mentioned that Underground Resistance, I always remember you for Star Dancer.
Yeah, Star Dancer.
It was your signature tune.
Signature. Any Mad Mike tracks played. In fact, I used to get away with playing the happy tracks down there. Yeah. The more housey, but it's got the beat in 909 and drum patterns. Yeah. And all that Mad Mike Banks stuff. Drexciya. Oh yeah. Early Jeff Mills stuff on Millsat music. Yeah. All of that shit got played down there. Yeah, didn't it? They loved it. They ate it up down there.
They really did. And then just to explain, this was a venue called the Pleasure Rooms, and there was 3 floors. So you had, so you were kind of taking control of the basement. Then I had the middle floor.
No, you had upstairs. And Lee Wright.
Wait, upstairs, yeah. Oh, sorry, you're right.
Lee Wright.
There was another floor then.
There was a middle. Lee Wright.
Lee Wright was doing very early, like UKG, garage.
Like
Bobby and Steve, mixed with Bobby and Steve's, you know, kind of like, you know, it was early UK garage interpretation of New York garage. Yeah, he had it going off in there, didn't he? Yeah. And then you're right. Then I was 1 floor above, which was the kind of I guess more like the kind of house room with a big vaulted roof. Got light in summer. 4 a.m. it would be light, and the last 2 hours would be in daylight.
What was really cool, when you had other gigs going on, I always got to cover you. So I had a chance to play good solid house, because I like to play house as well. And I'd play a lot, you know, 95 North and Deep Dish, and I used to enjoy playing that stuff on that main floor.
That was the sound of that floor. Deep Dish and Tenaglia and
all that tribal
Francois
music era.
Yeah.
We were into the New York sound, with Junior Vasquez. All them 12, 15-minute wild pitch mixes.
Well, DJ Pierre, wild pitch.
Steaming.
Yeah. And then you'd walk through that room, you're right, because it was on the same level, and then you come to like another like really nice bar area where you could chill out past the fish tanks, and there'd be James Holroyd doing a kind of Balearic beats thing.
I'll never forget all times I'd always hear you play some track and be like, what the fuck is this? I heard you play the Pierre mix of Pet Shop Boys for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Tell me why. That one. And then I heard you play the other one, The Boy Who Lost His Trousers at Twilight.
Which was just East 17, believe it or not.
Really?
It's East 17.
And I'd come up, I'd be running up the ladders.
There's a white label, and I guess the record company hated it because it just came out on this kind of white label looking test press. It's a Tenaglia mix of East 17, cheeky one. They were doing it was like Def Mix. They were doing massive bands at the time, like huge bands, and like the main mix would often be a little. I don't want to use the word cheesy, but cheesy. Yeah. For basics, but we'd find the dubs that they'd always run off like a Red Zone dub or a Tenaglia tribal dub or a whatever.
And
we'd grab them.
Yeah. And I heard so much good music first off you. I don't know where you were getting your promos. I heard
from you. That's record.
Green Velvet, I'm Losing My Mind. I remember you playing that on a white label.
No, that you are right. I got those first because I went to Chicago and I went to stay with Derek Carter. He kindly returned the favour because we were getting him over. He said, "Yeah, man, stay at my house." I was staying at Derek Carter's house in Chicago. Nice. He took me to Kajmir's apartment, who was Green Velvet, and I remember walking into Kaj's apartment, and he was doing well, like Curtis, and he was doing and he was doing. I mean, he took me also to Casual. I went to the Casual warehouse, and they had it was an eye opener for me, mate. They had a big operation. They were selling a lot of records, doing a lot of records, and I remember going around his apartment, mate, and he was like, to me, it was kind of like Prince a little bit at the time, and he was that. He was a proper artist.
Relief record,
he did Relief, he did all sorts, and then I came back with a massive stack of records from Casual. So I've still got when I was digging for Back to Basics, which is actually tonight, we're in the Mint Club in Leeds doing this. I found quite a lot of my white labels because I had them before people were out. I've got Terence FM. I've got all the early kind of Shay and Ron stuff, which was also going through Casual on prescription as a distributor, I think. And then I had a lot of Kajmir. Stuff. So I was coming back with the white labels before they were out. Yeah. So that's probably why you heard Losing My Mind, because I've got a test pressing of it.
I was like, whoa, where'd you get that from?
Yeah, from him, from Kajmir. Yeah, from the source. Yeah. So it was a great connection. I think we really connected the dots. Well, I think we really connected the dots between. Not only like being in the north, if you imagine it like a triangle, but also then, London, and then, going over to places like Bristol, up to Glasgow, but also across the pond. We really connected the dots with New York, Chicago, Detroit, because we were bringing the DJs in. And then that became like a fertile hunting ground for us for 2020, because then we kidnap the DJs, get them in the farm, and get them to do tracks, with us.
Rock and Cato were at the farm. Carl Craig was at the farm.
But like Stacey Pullen,
Shay,
Miller, Shay, Ron, Josh Wing. They all used to drop by. I remember the thing was unluckily, let's say, for me, the decks were in my room, my bedroom. The studio was downstairs. Deck room was my bedroom. So the time if I'd finished at 2 a.m, by the time I even packed up my records and got back to the farm, it was up a farm track. There'd be cars parked up the track like a rave. And it would be a bloody rave in my bedroom. And I remember getting back once and Mr. C was already on my decks. I think he played for about 10 hours and get to the point, it's like, do you mind if I kind of lie down now, mate? It was still going. There'd be people would be playing there till bloody Monday morning. It was my bedroom.
Me included.
You included. Breaking my monitors with a pint of Bacardi and Coke, which was your typical.
Oh, he's broke my speakers.
He smashed my speakers again. No wonder we're all deaf now with tinnitus. But yeah, it was a special time, and it definitely fed back to Basics. Yeah. And then, but I think you might remember this moment, but basically I've done this 3 times, but we went on tour to America.
I was going to.
And we went, I bet you were, and we ended up in Orlando, which was a great rave scene actually in Gainesville at a place called Simon's, which was a really early American rave club, which was actually brilliant.
It's where I met my beautiful wife, Jennifer.
And we went to this after party. You ended up meeting a girl called Jennifer. And I remember you went, oh, lads, I'll see you back at the airport. You never came home.
They're like, are you sure you want to go, Huggy? Are you sure you want to go? Yeah. Off I went.
And so you moved to America. So tell us a little bit about life in America and Orlando. And, did it feel like you were kind of, I remember taking you to the pub.
I was just going to say, I remember you going, Huggy, come on, we'll go to some pub in Loft House.
Loft House.
And you're like, are you sure you want to break up the band? Are you sure you want to break up?
We saw it like a band.
Yeah.
Don't. I think it was even more like Huggy.
Yeah.
Don't break up the band.
But I was, I was in love.
Of course, man.
I was in love.
We moved for love.
We've been married almost 29 years, so.
Well, congratulations.
It was a good thing.
Yeah. No, fucking hell, she's a lot prettier than me. So.
I'll never forget though when we did some of the gigs in America. And we're like laying on people's couches. You were like, I bet fucking Sasha and Digweed don't have to do this.
I remember it was Asheville. We were doing a gig in Asheville. They were great guys, but we ended up sleeping up. We were sharing a mattress on the floor in the spare room. Yeah. And I remember going, I was like, yeah, bet Sasha and Digweed don't have to do this.
We'd be top and tail, you'd sock and me and my gob.
Farting. Oh, good one, mate. And my mouth was open.
Come on, mate. Let's get some bacon butties.
Yeah. Well, but that's how you had to. That's how you had to schlep around. That's how you had to tour. Well,
that was my first time DJing in America. I know you'd done a bit here and there, and been to Sound Factory, which I never did, but we did a few. I remember playing in Boston with you and. Atlanta.
Oh yeah, Atlanta was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a good house.
Miami and Orlando.
Miami, of course. The winter music conferences with Shay Damier and.
Well, tell us a bit about.
Banging his drums.
What was Miami Music Conference all about back then?
Oh mate, it was. I've heard everybody says it's different now, but it was you'd hear the best tunes and meet all the greatest DJs in the best clubs.
By swimming pools in the sun.
By swimming pools in the sun in March.
Yeah, because I remember I could go with a bag of 2020 Vision promos, and I was kind of pretty green the first time, and the worst thing you could possibly do was open your bag of promos. Then you'd be like, oh, these kids, not getting them to Tenaglia.
The Fontainebleau.
The Fontainebleau. Anyone you actually wanted to get into, and you get swung and get like, hi, I'm Chuck from WKRC Cincinnati. I'd love a promo. And then he'd be like, oh, and you'd absolutely rinse your promos.
You remember when I had Chris Needs' underpants on my head for about 48 hours?
Oh, yeah. You were in a jacuzzi in Miami with Chris.
With Hardkiss.
I think you better explain Chris Needs and Hardkiss. Tell us a bit about both of those people.
Well, we met up with the Hardkiss boys. Scott, God bless him.
Scott
and
Robbie.
And we were just chilling out. And Chris Needs was there with us. He was documenting it.
Chris Needs is a legendary UK journalist, producer.
He was a basic.
Secret Knowledge was his band with Wanda.
Yeah, with Wanda. And he come up to basic.
We love Chris Needs. He was just part of the gang.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, what a dude. He was hilarious.
Yeah.
He looked like a rocker from a punk from the and he probably was. He was older than us.
He fit into the basics ethos so well. He just slotted right in.
Yeah.
And then we were in Miami, and for God knows whatever reason, I ended up wearing his underpants on my head for about 48 hours, looking like fucking Spider-Man.
Or Captain Underpants.
Captain Ball Sludge.
Captain Ball Sludge.
Oh, God. You can edit that if you want.
No, I like that. Captain Ball Sludge. Oh my God. Right, yeah. I don't know where to go from that one.
So the point being, we're in Miami. It was, we were having fun. And, like you say, you'd be giving your promos out. People would be zipping in them, and then you'd be meeting, oh, come up here, meet Stacey Pullen. And then we'd go off to all these parties in the day. Louis Vegas playing at a barbecue at
that was amazing.
2 p.m.
No, it was they had like New York and Soul
Yeah.
barbecue, and they had like a Cuban,
Yeah.
like proper full pig roast on the barbie, didn't they?
There was-
and then all that whole New Yorkan vibe in the daytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was so much to choose from. You didn't know where to go, but
Yeah.
I'll never forget being with you in Groove Jet and hearing for the first time Tenaglia's mix of Voodoo Ray.
Yeah.
And we're like dancing away early. We were just dancing all night, and we heard this Voodoo Ray, and we're like, "What the fuck is this?"
To this day, like if you want to say, right, you put me on the spot, say, right, Ralph, top 10 nights of all time
That was one
you've
of
been to. I'm telling you, Tenaglia at Groove Jet
Was one of
at
them.
that Winter Music Festival was
Yeah.
1,000,000%
Oh,
one of them. It
unreal.
was Tenaglia at its peak, playing all night in this
Yeah.
small space, and it was just electric. You couldn't go for
Nobody
a piss.
could touch that. dude.
No one could touch it, and I remember that. FK and giving him a rhythm no one had, and he had the vocal like Voodoo Ray,
And we're like,
teasing it and teasing. He teased tracks
Teased it.
till people were at fever. And I remember there was these kind of columns in the middle of the dance floor, and I remember this guy trying to, because he was up a bit. The booth was quite
He'd have
often
a little
above,
lighted flash
a little
around.
lighted torch. I remember this guy just climbing up, just trying to reach him it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But what a moment, mate, and lovely to have you back.
Yeah.
In the UK,
Yeah.
For Back to Basics, and we're getting the whole crew back again that have been, a lot of the residents that have been there.
Yeah,
over
don't
the
forget,
years.
really, I wanted to mention, I've been in the studio with Dave Ross doing Formidable Force again. So we're getting that
to
going.
reconnect you with your
2020.
Formidable Force. To reconnect you with your Formidable Force project, which was you and at Narco, has been a great feeling, and again, just to see the next gen, Gen Z loving these records.
Yeah.
I've got DJs like Gene on Earth ringing me up,
Yeah.
going, "What about this Formidable Force?"
And I love
track?
working
the
with
Brett,
Dave,
the Brett
yeah.
Johnson
He's a
remix
genius,
of
yeah.
Mind Games,
Yeah.
just still sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, I might even dig it out for
Dig
tonight.
it out for tonight. But lovely to have you back,
You
mate.
too, Hot
And,
Bro. Give me a hug.
Yeah. No, it's Wolf and Bear.
Wolf and Bear.
Yeah, back together for Back to
together,
Basics.
Back to Basics.
After more than 30 years ago
30
now,
years,
mate.
mate.
Yes.
Boom.